Hey, kia ora, Helen Brums here, coming to you live from Surprise in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic sparkling day. Hang on, I got to cross this one off. Didn't cross off last night. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1873. The hunt is on. We are back researching genealogy for my own family tree, making connections with DNA, which is really cool because I got notification from 23andMe. Now, I've done 3 genealogy DNA tests, and you're probably going, why 3? Because different connections are on different platforms. And like I came across one on 23andMe, and I'm like, I've got this one connected. And I could find it on the 23andMe tree that I had uploaded. They showed the connection there. And I'm like, I'm sure I've got that one on Ancestry as well. So I went over to Ancestry and had a look, and I'm like, I messaged this person. I know I did. I went backwards and forwards with this person. And so then I went back to 23andMe and found out I had gone backwards and forwards with a message on there with them. So then I went over to Ancestry and flagged them as a DNA match. And on Ancestry, there's 3 different flags when you DNA somebody. You've got the DNA match, which is you have a direct connect with that person. Then you have the DNA connection. And the DNA connection is that you are connected to this person because somebody below you is below them is a DNA match. So say, so you've got a DNA match with somebody else, and that person, that DNA connection is between you and that DNA match. So they're in the same branch of the tree, but you don't have an actual DNA connection with them, except for the fact that this one down here could be your like 3rd cousin, and this one up here is your 2nd cousin. And so you have a DNA connection with them that way. And then there was, what was the 3rd one? Linked DNA, I think it was. Can't remember what that one was. I think it was linked DNA. Now I gotta go and have a look. There's a 3rd way that you can link. And so what was interesting is that, so I found this one and I was able to do that. And then I had to put in the comments that the DNA match is actually through 23andMe on there. So if anybody who happens to have access to my tree, and there's all of 3 people that have access to my tree, I'm very, very protective of the people on my tree. So there's only 3 people who have access to my tree. So they can, oh, excuse me, got a frog. It's still there. Goodness knows. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So if anybody who has access to my tree sees that DNA match, they're going to be looking in my DNA ancestry for it, and they're not going to find it. And then, but there's that little comment there that says, "Hey, you got to go to 23andMe to find that one." So there's, yeah, I've got. So the first one I did was 23andMe. Then I did family tree and family tree DNA. Then I did Ancestry. And the reason I did all 3 was because not only do I have connections on all 3, because whatever DNA tests some blood relative decided to do, that's the platform that they end up on. So, and plus I also wanted to know that as a genealogist, when I am learning about the DNA tests and everything else, and I'm using them with clients and things, I need to be familiar with what tests each one does, what they cover. Plus I wanted to see from my personal use, is there any variation in my origins? So, you know, how much European do I have in me? How much English do I have in me? How much Cornish do I have in me? How much Scottish? How much Irish? How much Norwegian? How much Swedish? And Iberian even came up in there as well. Iberian's like 2%. So I'm sort of like, okay, we've got some Spanish influence going on in there. But definitely got the Norwegian and the Swedish, which confirms rumors on my dad's side of the family that we descend from Vikings. And I said, yeah. I said, I would believe that. And they're like, why? I said, because we've got ancestors from Scotland on my dad's side. Now, this is really cool. So because there's a mixture of DNA that you get from each parent. So you get 50% from your father, 50% from your mother, and there's this mix. Now, the mix is not the same that goes to your siblings. You get a mix, they get a mix, you know, and each one of them, and each sibling gets a mix. But that's not exactly the same mix, unless you're an identical twin. And there's still a very slight variation, a very, very slight variation on that. But for getting identical twins, so everybody gets a mix. Now, in those mixes, you will have some overlap, and then you'll have some that are not overlapped at all. And in the overlap one, it will show that you are blood related to these particular people. But then your DNA may show that you have these DNA matches for cousins. And in my case, with my brother, he has a different set of cousins that he is blood related to. This is why it is important to get as many members in your family to do DNA tests as possible, especially if you've got siblings, because you might turn around and go, well, I'm not related. I know I'm related to that person. Genealogy shows me I'm related to that person. Why does my DNA not? Because you may not have gotten the gene that shows that you belong, that you are blood related to that person. Your sibling may have got that DNA match. So this is why it's important to get as many people in your family to do DNA testing as possible, so that especially if you've got siblings, you've got a broader picture of where the blood relatives are. And then you use genealogy to determine what the connection is. And so that's, so keeping that in mind. So when I did my looking at my thing, and even, I mean, on Ancestry it now sort of like halves and goes, this is your maternal makeup, this is your paternal makeup. And I think it's done from the DNA matches that I've done that I have confirmed are DNA matches and confirmed what the actual relationship is with those DNA matches. Because I don't put them as a confirmed DNA match until I know, are they first cousins, second cousins, third cousins, fourth cousins, second cousins once removed, are they aunts and uncles, that sort of thing. It comes out really weird because on my paternal side, it shows I have more Scottish and less Irish, yet when I'm doing the genealogy, I have a strong Irish connection on my paternal side and a little bit of Scottish on my paternal side. On my maternal side being the mother, I have a strong Scottish genealogy with very little Irish. Yet on my mum's side, from the DNA I get from her, I have a very strong Irish and a very little bit of Scottish thrown in there. And so I'm going to see if I can get my brother to do the DNA testing as well, because I'll be interested to see what his mix is. Is he the complete opposite of me? But, when you're going back and was my uncle. I think my uncle told me that we had Vikings on my dad's side my dad's brother told us that we had Vikings on that side of the family. There was rumors. And so later on, I was sort of like, yeah, I can quite believe that. He says, why is that? I said, well, I got Norwegian and Swedish on there, which is where Vikings come from. Plus, they also settled Scotland. So I've got Scottish roots on that side of the family, and I have Scottish roots on my side of the family. So I have a very good chance that I have Viking in me somewhere along the way, which when I found out I also have Norwegian and Swedish, and I was like, there you go. Plus a very Scottish connection, and from the Highlands around Inverness. And what was really funny is that I was looking up Inverness on the map to see where it was. And I went to Brad and went, oh. He goes, what's that? I says, I found Inverness on the map. He goes, okay. I said, there's a lake by Inverness. He goes, oh. And of course, loch in Scotland means lake. So I said, yeah. I says, the lake by Inverness is called Loch Ness. And he's sort of like, well, that explains a lot. So, yeah, what can I say? It's all in the DNA. But so today I've been matching up, in my downtime, I've been matching up those DNA matches that I've got on other ones that I'm putting onto the Ancestry one that I do have a DNA match. This is the program you'll find them in. And now I've got to go to Family Tree DNA and do the same with those as well. So, yeah, it's interesting, and it's a lot of fun. I love doing it. And then I found an email from some cousin, don't know, haven't confirmed whether she's third, fourth removed or anything like that yet. But she also manages like 3 other profiles that I match up to as well. And so I think it's like mum and kids. And so I've been having a look at that. Can't find the connection, because the tree that she has open online is nothing to do with my tree at all. So I sent her a message, and she sent me a message back in December 2022, and I only just found it today. So I sent her a message apologizing for the fact that it's taken me 2 years to respond to her. I said, this got buried, and I have a lot of, actually, I just thought there's another side I got to go check. Might have a lot of messages there too. It's another genealogy program. And so I sent to her this message and saying, look, trying to figure it out, blah, 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 blah. So I gave her some things. I think it might come in here or there, and we're trying to figure this out. So give me a little more information, please. Maybe we have a connection on your mother's side of the family. And then and so now I'm like looking through all the old messages and things, but there are other ones that I haven't responded to. And I came across another one. And this one person that says, hey, we're related through this, you've got this name in your family. We're related through this thing. And I'm like looking at it going, I don't think so. And so it says that we're fourth cousins. Oh, jeepers. Memory's going today. It says we're either fourth cousins or half third cousins once removed on my maternal side. So I'm trying to figure out where it is. And I'm like looking at some of these names and going, some of these names look familiar. And yet I'm searching through the thing and I can't find a match and I can't find those names in my tree. And I'm like, the only one I can find in my tree is the ones that's marked green, which is the one that she thinks that we have the connection through. So I've done my pedigree chart where I have her on here, her parents, and then her grandparents and great-grandparents. So this goes, So this goes the person, their parents, grandparents, where you've got 4, and then great-grandparents. Now, if it's to be fourth cousins, that means that we have, where did my comparison chart go? Hang on. My little cheat sheet. I have a cheat sheet here. Let's see. Fourth cousins, right here it says fourth cousins, means that we've got third great-grandparents in common. This sheet only goes to first great-grandparents. So then what I have to do, it's a very complex operation, this. So then what I do is I take her 4 grandparents and put them as number 1 on this. So this here I've got listed as grandparent, like maternal grandparent maternal grandmother, maternal grandfather, paternal grandmother, paternal grandfather. Then I have written up here, I have first great, second great, third great. So somewhere in this column over here on the second sheet for this tree is where our match is supposed to be for a fourth cousin or a third cousin once removed. It's very interesting going through this because Ancestry keeps saying, we've found a match. Now, the problem with these potential matches, let me tell you about these potential matches. They look at one person's tree and go, oh, you've got a match with this tree because it says these people here are the same as what's on your tree. Not necessarily, because when you go into hints, they also show you other family trees as well that might be a match to yours. Now, I have learned through my own trial and error from a few years, way back. I've been on Ancestry for over 24 years, I think it is now. A long time. I learned way back in the Wayback Machine when they first brought in this thing where you could upload family trees and put them into your tree and all that, to be very cautious with this because I made some mistakes. I downloaded it and then realized that I had the wrong tree in there or the wrong people in there, or they had way too many kids. I knew they didn't have that many kids. Through manual research that I had previously done, I knew they didn't have that many children. And so there's a lot of mistakes I made. So then I learned that I don't accept a family tree on there unless I know it is somebody that I trust and I trust their research. And I can go in there and I can see all the records that they have accessed and everything else. Maybe. Sometimes, and some of them you can go in and you just click on the name of the tree and it takes you into the tree to that person and you can go and have a look at their research. Then they have this really cool thing where if it's not across the top underneath the person's name, you go up to tools and you click on it. It says, save this person to my tree. And so what it does is it will then, and that's after I've gone in and verified everything. And so I'll just take that one person and put them in my tree. And it puts across the parents and the spouses and their children. And so it doesn't bring across their siblings, which is kind of nice. It doesn't bring across siblings until you go to the parents and say, hey, put these across. So I've been finding that very handy. It was a very handy tool I found. But so the hints when it gives you a family tree to look at could be very different to the family tree that is a potential. And like I said, and they turn around and they say, this comes from this person's tree. And I'm like, well, I don't know that person. I don't know if they're correct or not. I'm doing my own, and I do my own research. Now, those are there that I use the family trees that potentially could be mine. Excuse me. Excuse me. And I use them as possible leads that I can go and investigate. It gives me a starting point. But most of the time I've been finding like the birth records, finding the marriage records first, because the marriage record, when you find the marriage record, like you've got the mum's, got the wife's name, you've got the husband's name. So you go find their marriage record, and on their marriage record, if they've got the bands there from the 1800s in England, they have the father's names for the wife and for the husband and what their trades are. So I'm like, well, this is pretty cool. And I have a last name that's come up, which is Silverside. And I thought, oh. And now, if you remember in the Wayback Machine, I talked about surnames and where they originate from, and how, Wilson is the son of William. You can have Thompson, the son of Tom. So you can figure out, you've got Baker is descendant from bakers, as in people who bake bread and goodies and all that sort of thing. So this one here was Silverside. So I'm having a look on the son's marriage certificate to see if I can find out what the father's name is. I found the father's name. Now the middle name I know is definitely in my tree because it is one of my direct descendants. And I'm like, ooh, but he's at the second great grandfather level, which means his third great grandmother would have to have that middle name as her maiden name. According to all suggestions, it's not the case. So I'm doing my own research. But when I was in there, it had the father's name and that he was a silversmith. And the occupation silver, I think it just had silver. And I was like, isn't that interesting? Silverside, and he's working with silver. That was interesting. And the son was also had something to do with silver as well. So there was that silver thing. And I'm like, I wonder where the side piece came in. So I'm not sure why it became Silverside. But one record actually had it transcribed as Silverstone. So I went and looked at the original document, and it definitely was not Silverstone. It was Silverside. You could tell by the handwriting that it was definitely side. So whoever transcribed that one did it incorrectly. So now I've got to go back into Ancestry, find that record again, and I can actually put a name change on there to say this is actually this particular thing. And people will see that and they'll go into the document and have a look and go, oh yeah, it is Silverside, not Silverstone. So you got to watch that as well, because sometimes if you're looking for Silverstone and not Silverside, and you see that Silverstone transcription where it's got it typed, and you go in and you don't go and look at the original document, you need to go in and look at the original document to see, is that Silverstone or is it Silversmith or is it something else? Because when I went in and had a look, because I thought, well, the information on this one that says Silverstone is all correct. I've already got 2 other marriage records that said it's Silverside, and then it's on this date and da-da-da-da-da. So I already had that information. And this was another resource from a different record that would then confirm. And the dates were all correct. Everything was correct except her last name. Instead of being Silverside, it had Silverstone. So I went in and looked at the original document, and sure enough, it said Silverside. And I'm like, how the hell did they get stone out of side? Somebody's eyes were a little cookie that day. So I've now gone in and I've got to go back to that record and hit the little button where I can actually say this is actually Silverside, not Silverstone. So other people, when they're researching, they'll come up and they'll see that there and go, oh, and it forces you to go and look at the document. Because there's been times I've come across the chain where people have put the name changes up there when I've been looking for somebody, and I go, oh, that's Hoskins, not Haskins. Because there'll be Haskins written up there instead of Hoskins, 1 letter difference. And so somebody's gone and put the correct name of Hoskins up there. And so I thought, let me go in and have a look. And you look at it and go, okay, I can see where they got the A from, but I happen to know that that's an O because I've got the census reports that go in between those. I've got all the birth records. I've got, other records that help support that particular census report or that birth certificate or whatever. I've got other documentation to support that. So, yeah, if you're on Ancestry and you find somebody's misread the transcription and typed it in differently, there is a little button that you can press. It's underneath the image. When you go back to where the listing is, it's underneath the image, and you can click on it and you can actually type in what the actual name is or what you think it is, and then they will go in and have a look and make whatever changes they need to make. So yeah, there is that you can do. And I don't know what she's looking at, but what's out there, Zephyr? Is the wind just blowing? We're meant to be getting gusty winds and thunderstorms today. I've seen no thunderstorms. There's been meant to be rain all day from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. We've had 0. Wind, yes. definitely had the wind. So, so now that she's turned around and said, well, I'm related to you through this particular, and I'm like, I can't find a connection with that name. And so I'm having to go through very carefully through the other grandparents and great-grandparents to see if there's a connection somewhere else. But interesting enough, I came across a very familiar name. I came across a Connery. And if you know me and you've been watching me for a while, you know Sean Connery is my favorite James Bond. Absolute hands down. The other ones are all really good, but he's my favorite. And I saw Connery and I went, oh. But these Connerys were in England, and I just found a connection. I just found one of them was actually born in Ireland, and I'm like, damn, I know he was Scottish. So I wonder if there was a connection for maybe somebody in his ancestry that went across time. But then I thought, but then I'd have to be related to that particular person in this particular way in order to have that connection to some sort of like, I'll put that on the to be researched later list. Well, it also depends where I find the connection to this family as well. Will it be in the name that she says, hey, we've got this name in common? Yes. But I have had that happen on another tree that said that we were connected on our paternal side. DNA said we were connected on the paternal side. And there were several names in this woman's tree that I also had in my tree on both sides of the family. And I could not find a connection anywhere. I was getting past the point of where we would have that third cousin connection. And third cousins are, let's see, third cousins, you got your second great-grandparents. So I was up to like the third and fourth great-grandparents. So I was beyond what that second or third cousin would be. So I said to her, just out of curiosity, what's the information on your mum? And so she gave me the information on mum, and boom, like that, I had to fit it in the tree as my third cousin. Because the system had said that we were second or third cousins on the paternal side, yet I had researched that and there was no connection, and it was frustrating me. And so finally I said to her, you've only got your father's side online. Who's your mum? And as soon as she mentioned who her mum was, boom, we had that connection like crazy. It took me less than 5 minutes to find her on my tree. Find her mum on my tree. And so I said, well, it seems like Ancestry got that wrong. And she says, and I said, well, Ancestry was telling me that we were second or third cousins on my father's side of the family. You're actually on my mum's side of the family, and this is how we're connected. And we actually happen to be half third cousins because my third great-grandmother and her third great-grandmother are the same. But my second great-grandmother. My second great-grandmother got married twice. I come from the daughter that she had with her first husband. She comes from the son that she had with the second husband. And she only got married second time because my second great-grandfather passed away from a mining accident. And then she got married a little while later to her second husband and had a child with them. And the first child that she had, was this girl's second great-grandfather. So, so our her great-grandfather. Because her second great-grandmother was the same as my second. So that's how we get the halves. That's how you get halves, is if you have one great-grandparent in common, not two. So in this case, it was our second great-grandmother was the one that we had in common because she'd been married twice. I descended from the first husband. She descended from the second husband. And that's how you get the half. So with that, I'm out of here. I got to go walk a dog because I got to be back here and online again in like 30 minutes. So we're going for a walk. So go out, have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific.